Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is Tim Beck, head coach of Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Shout out to the Fun Belt podcast.
If you didn't know before, now you know why they call this the Fun Belt.
Very excited about the Sun Belt.
You know, while other conferences have been breaking up, our conference has become stronger.
The state of Sun Belt football is the strongest in our history.
I saw Fun Belt Conference, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I got to join the show. It sounds a lot of fun.
That was funny when we didn't record the Monarchs. Good times. All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Fun Belt Podcast. Fun Belt Podcast, part of the Believe Network, because we believe in the Sun Belt so much. With me is Shane Metlin from the Daily News Record. Shane, welcome tonight.
Thanks for having me.
And also on, I'm not having you. You're part of the show. With us also is Dusty Thibodeau from the Warhawk Report. Dusty? Oh, wait, Dusty's not here. Shane, what did we do with Dusty? Where did we put him?
I don't even remember what he said he was doing tonight. I just remember him not saying he wasn't going to be here.
He just said he wasn't going to. He just was like, hey, I'm not going to be here on Wednesday. You're going to have to run the show. What? You know what? I wasn't here on Monday. I'm sure you guys had a great show.
I think it was the best ever.
Probably. Yeah. Not. You know, it was technically, it probably ran really smooth. Didn't have my nervous laughter in the background. Didn't have me going off on a tangent that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. I can promise you, though, it's going back to that kind of disaster tonight, Shane.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just see. If it's a good show tonight,
all right,
then we know what the common denominator is, and I will ask for a raise.
Yes, we will find some money in petty cash to increase your salary.
It's a Texas showdown in the postseason, and BetOnline is your #1 source for all of your baseball wagering information, with up-to-date stats, scores, news, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals for the NFL and college football at your fingertips, with BetOnline's real-time updates and statistics, news, and odds. We have everything you need to stay up to speed on each LCS all the way to the World Series. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Don't forget to use your promo code BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.
All right, you know why I wasn't in on Monday, Shane?
I think I saw some pictures from a basketball arena in a northeastern corner of Arkansas.
Yes, I drove the Little Wolf buggy from Little Rock to Jonesboro and took in some exhibition basketball. It's between Arkansas State, UCA. The proceeds going to help tornado victims of Wynne, Arkansas. Wynne, I doubt if you've ever been to the community of Wynne. It's between sort of between Memphis and Jonesboro. It's sort of in the between there. It's got a nice golf course, but there's not a lot to it. It's the city with a smile. That's what they call Wynne, the city with a smile.
I wasn't too familiar with Wynne.
No, and you shouldn't be.
Sounds nice.
It's just absolutely flattened by a tornado, knocked down like the high school and the civic center, and so all the money went to that. And Shane, I got pumped up for Sunbelt basketball Monday night because my team, the Red Wolves, are looking really good. They've got this equal balance of 7 returners and 7 transfer guys, and they're meshing really well under new head coach Brian Hodgson. I think the Sports Illustrated came out with its top 364 or whatever. You know, they rank every D1 basketball team in the land. You're James Madison, sub 100 in the 70s somewhere, which I thought was cool. But Arkansas State ranked 220. I don't think the news have come out. I really do believe this is going to be a good year for Arkansas State. Pretty excited about it. But JMU getting some national looks. How do you explain this?
I think JMU should be pretty solid.
Okay.
They bring back Terrence Edwards, who
Yeah.
has a chance to be one of the better players in the conference.
Ooh.
They, add some guys in the transfer portal. I think most notably, TJ Bickerstaff was a starter at Boston College. He's coming in. I don't want to say Jordan Brown level big man quite yet, but I think in that neighborhood, perhaps just, an established guy with that kind of size who can really kind of control the paint. I think, he adds something that JMU hasn't quite had since Mark Byington's gotten here. And I think that adds, a pretty intriguing aspect to it. But I'm with you too. I think Arkansas State a little underranked in the 200s.
Well, I'm not grousing about it. I mean, Arkansas State historically has just been an awful place for basketball. Just hasn't really turned that corner. But Hodgins really brought a new element, a new layer. The team plays fast. They've played 2 exhibition games against subpar opponents. I get that, but put up 112 points on both those opponents, playing at a really quick pace, nailing 3-pointers. They beat UCA on Monday night. UCA beat Arkansas State last year, and probably one of the most dispiriting games I had seen Arkansas State ever play. It was at UCA. They had a 12-point halftime lead. They just totally blew it. But Shane, you know what? I get from you that you enjoy football and that you enjoy baseball, and then you enjoy some of the other sports like softball and lacrosse and all the other sports. You're just sort of a renaissance man of college sports. But I think down to your core, maybe as a Kansas man, basketball's your jam. Am I right?
I think you get me. Yeah.
And I just sense that you're really looking forward. You're being all calm about JMU. Yeah, I think they'll be pretty good. You're pretty jazzed though about the season, right?
Yeah, I would be thrilled to cover a good basketball team. And, I covered the women's NCAA tournament last year. Yeah, I would love the opportunity to cover the men's NCAA tournament this year. I mean, I think JMU has a chance to get there.
Wait.
I think it's a balanced league again.
Do they get to play postseason basketball? Are they allowed?
Okay. They do, yeah.
Well, we get all excited about James Bassett. I don't want to have that hope come up, and then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, NCAA doesn't even count our stats.
Yeah, we can get into that, but I think for basketball, everything's pretty normal this season.
Guess who Sports Illustrated ranked last for the Sun Belt? You didn't look, did you?
I didn't go through the entire list for Sports
I
Illustrated.
went through the whole list.
I'm going to guess we're only able to talk about it because Tibbs isn't here.
Significantly lowest is ULM. And that's too bad. I always feel like they kind of get close. They get a couple good players, and then I guess something implodes. It doesn't look good for them this year. I feel bad for Thibodeau because Thibodeau, to his root, kind of like you, he likes all the other sports, but he's a basketball man too, and it must be disheartening for him to be his team to be projected to perform so poorly. I feel bad for Tibbs, but he's not here, so we can make fun of him.
That's harsh, but
have you been keeping up with this cheating scandal that's going on with a certain Big Ten team?
To some degree. It's hard to keep up with everything because there's something new and some new photographic evidence every day, it seems like. But
I'm not really paying attention to it. Are you kind of paying attention to it?
To some degree. A couple things that have entered my orbit about it.
Okay.
First, I found it pretty noticeable that JMU on Saturday was not signaling in their plays the same way they traditionally have.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
There were not big poster boards with gaudy NHL logos or whatever. We're supposed to signal different things. Those were gone.
Yeah, okay.
They had some sort of smaller, easier to hide signifier. They added a fourth signaler
No, okay.
They
Yeah,
used to have like just 3 guys on the sideline in bright colored clothes, like
yeah.
signaling in things, and
I love those.
only one I think was the actual signal. They added a fourth. The scout team quarterback was with those guys signaling it in. So I found it noticeable that even a team like James Madison seemed to get even more defensive about hiding their signaling this week. The second way it came onto my radar, though, was getting on the college football playoff ranking teleconference last night.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, maybe like the first 5 people who got on asked if one person asked if the Michigan, I don't know if it's the AD or the president, whoever's on the committee from Michigan, basically asked if he shouldn't recuse himself. The next person, was asking, if they're cheating, does that, make you think, why are we ranking this team so high if they're cheating to be so good? Like the first 5 questions or so were all like, what are you going to do about Michigan? Basically,
they're like the Houston Astros of college football. Yeah.
Yeah. So
another dig at Hibb, who's not here to defend himself. Here's what I've noticed. That it kind of, every time you get a cheating scandal like this, it seems to bring to the surface what people feel about cheating. And there's like categories of people. There's the category of people who'll be like, hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. There's that group of people. To me, those are the most odious of people. They're the ones that no matter what, to win, the win is the most important thing. And if you have to cheat to win, then by golly, you got to cheat to win. And then there's the group of people like, yeah, I accept that there's some cheating in the sport that I love, and it's on the up to your team to prevent cheating from happening. So it's almost like blaming the victim in a way. Like people say, well, yeah, sure, Michigan was cheating, but these other teams, they should have been safeguarding themselves. So they almost make it sound like, well, it's not Michigan's fault. It's your fault for being such a victim. And then there's kind of these people like me who just don't like cheating at all. I don't understand what satisfaction can someone gain by winning a contest, knowing that you won not because you played better, but because you had an edge that the other team didn't have, and it was illegal. Help me understand this, Shane. I know there's a lot of money involved, but Michigan has every possible advantage already. They've got the money, they've got the broadcast, they got the recruits, they got the $1 million coach. Why do they need to cheat?
Because the justification, I would guess, probably has something to do like, well, if we're not doing it, then our rivals are, and we're behind. Well, not to say I agree with that, but I'm guessing that's the mental gymnastics that goes into convincing yourself to do it. The interesting thing, though, you brought up the second thing you said was like, well, if they can see it, then we didn't hide it well enough or whatever. Like, but it's not even that they were stealing the signs. Is like, how are you supposed to hide your signals if you don't know that the guy wearing a Central Michigan polo on the other sideline isn't actually a Central Michigan guy, and that he's got a camera in his glasses, allegedly?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, allegedly. Like, how are you supposed to defend against that? That's why they banned the like in-person scouting and stuff like that. It's so it's not just like, oh, we got to cover our signals better. It's how do you guard against something you don't know what it is?
And I think it's brought up a good idea, an expensive idea, almost as expensive as making everybody put up a 24-second clock in your facility. It's the helmet communicator, the radio communicator between coach and quarterback, right? That's supposed to like be the solve all, right? If you have direct communication with your quarterback, there's no need for signals, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes some sense. And I don't know what you're a businessman. Like,
oh yeah,
what would the cost of something like that be to a school? Like, are we talking about something that's a drop in the bucket for most D1 programs, or is it something that would hurt like your
somebody
average CUSA team?
Somebody brought that up and said, "Oh, it'd be this enormous cost." I don't see why it would be an enormous cost. I mean, compared to a lot of other things that we've got,
they're already like connected to the booth upstairs and everything. It doesn't seem like it should be. I mean, I know it's got to be something that's safe for a player on the field to wear.
You got a special helmet, I'm sure, but I mean, what are we talking about? $200? I don't know.
Yeah,
1,000?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it should be that crazy of a thing with the technology we have today. But
no, I think you're right about that. I don't know why that would be an expensive thing. I used to kind of, when I played football in junior high, how plays got into the quarterback was the split end, right? The wide receiver. You'd say Harper, 46 blast, and I'd have to run into the huddle and say, "Hey, Kyle, my good friend Kyle, who's the quarterback, 46 blast," and then we'd run the play, and that's how things work. You can steal a play because only the wide receiver and the coach knew before it made it to the huddle, right? So,
oh yeah, exactly. I was that guy in high school one year, playing 8-man football in the middle of nowhere. I was the 9th guy, and me and my friend, we rotated at end every snap. We played every other down, and one of us was running the play in.
That's how you had to do it. I have a little story about that. So, junior high, 9th grade was last year I played football, and I didn't want to be there. Everybody had grown, like in size, like in height and weight, but me. So I was not a good football player and spent a lot of time kind of hiding on the sideline so I wouldn't be noticed by the coach. Well, one day, coach notices me and says, "Harper, go in there and run the play." So he gives me a play. I said, "Fuck, okay." So I run to the huddle. A good friend of mine, Kyle Franks, he was the quarterback, and I give him the play. He says, "Jeremy, you got to take out your mouthpiece. I don't understand what you're saying." So I took out my mouthpiece, and in that instant, forgot what the play was. It just evaporated out of my head. I had no idea what the play was. So I invented a play. I said, 46 blast. I just made something up. And he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "That's what the coach said." So we line up, and we immediately lose like 5 yards, and we have to punt. So the next day, we played games on Thursday night. And the next day, we'd have to sit all day or all PE period, physical period, football period, and watch the game film. So I'm just dreading this moment when this play comes because I know I'm going to get my ass chewed out. So sure enough, the play comes onto the video monitor. We lose the 5 yards. And coach says, "Kyle, what the hell happened there?" And Kyle said, "Well, Jeremy said." "I don't care what Jeremy said," and just start ripping a new one at the top. Well, I escaped. But you know what? From which there is no escape, Shane.
What's that?
Second and short. You hear the gong? Yeah. All right, Shane, I want you to give it a try. You didn't give it a good try last time. I want you to really give it a try. No, say it.
Say what? The gong?
No, second and short.
Oh, second and short.
You hear it?
There we go. Okay. I get what you're doing now.
You're not helping me with my post-production magic, Shane.
Okay.
Yes. All right, it's fine. Second and short. You know how second and short works. I kind of lay down the groundwork, and usually you and Tibbs kind of do a little back and forth. But this time it's just going to be me and you. I'm going to introduce every game. I'm going to throw it to you. We'll go back a little bit. We'll try to keep each under 2 minutes so we can move on with our families. But right now, second and short on the Believe Network, Fun Belt Podcast. Here we go. As soon as I find my notes, I'm pulling it up. First game. Thursday night game. That's tomorrow, Shane. I don't know if you have a calendar in front of you. November 2nd. This was going to be like a fantastic game. It was like the game that a lot of people had who follow the Sun Belt, like you and me, had circled. Now, maybe not such a big game, but still a lot of rivalry involved. South Alabama, 4-4, at Troy, 6-2. 6:30 p.m. ESPN2. Trojans are a 5-point favorite. Oh, is there a team more puzzling than the Jaguars? They got the big win on the road against Oklahoma State, and then really not much else. They've beat up on the bottom dwellers of the Sun Belt West. Everybody else, they get beat up by, including a shocking 33-20 home loss to Louisiana, who was supposed to still be a team kind of figuring itself out. Louisiana's actually pretty good. Is this game, aside from the rivalry, worth watching, Shane?
I think it's worth watching because you don't know what you get from South Alabama, and it's a rivalry. So you don't know what you get from a rivalry. I joked, I think, in our DM thread last week that I was going to abstain from picking any more South Alabama games because you don't know.
You were done with South Alabama.
You don't know. How can you pick when you don't know what team is playing and you don't know what South Alabama team is playing? But I think there's a possibility it's a very entertaining game because if South Alabama brings their best, they might challenge Troy and they might make it a fun rivalry weekend. Weekend. It's Thursday night, but you know what I mean.
It's Thursday's part of the weekend. It's the start of the weekend. I could see Vegas sending some leg breakers to Kane Womack's office and saying, you guys need to get your shit together because we have no idea how to prognosticate your games. We are losing money left and right thanks to your wildness, thanks to your weirdness. Yeah. Meanwhile, Troy, man, they just seem to be getting stronger, Shane. Every game, the defense seems to be getting stouter. Gunnar Watson seems to be becoming a better and better quarterback. I think he was the offensive player of the week this week. What do you think of Troy?
Like you said, they seem to be getting stronger and stronger. We said this last year. They lost week 3, a conference game, a heartbreaker, and then went on a long winning streak. Yeah. This year, they lost a conference game, a heartbreaker, week 3, and they're seem to be in the midst of the same winning streak, winning out. They really could do that if they get past their rivals this weekend. I think Troy, if JMU continues to be ineligible, is the obvious favorite to win the conference right now. And they just get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? At the beginning of the season, I really thought Troy had lost a couple steps on defense. They just seem stronger on defense. They're probably one of the, statistically, maybe JMU is better. I wouldn't know because, nobody records statistics for JMU. They don't really count. But Troy might be maybe the best defensive team I've seen in the Sun Belt in a long time. Jumpstart to Saturday, November 4th. That's when the real action begins. 2 conference OGs. Original gangsters. Louisiana sitting at 5-3. Visit Arkansas State sitting at 4-4. 2 p.m. ESPN plus Pluff. Cajuns are a 9-point favorite. One thing about it's going to be like a battle between these 2 freshman quarterbacks, Zion Chris for the Cajuns and Jalen Rayner for the Red Wolves. But man, one guy you gotta look for is this Jacob Cabody guy. 550 yards on the year, 6 TDs. He's not mentioned in the same breath of guys like Marcus Carroll or Kamani Vidal or Rashid Ali or any of the great. This year Sunbelt stacked with great running backs, but he's just as good as these other guys. I think if Arkansas State wants to win this game, they're going to have to keep Cabody out of the end zone. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. He's not. You look at Marcus Carroll, Kamani Vidal; those guys are just putting up insane numbers on the whole. But Cabody's been really solid. He's a guy who'll get you 5 yards a carry and keep the chains moving. And I think keeping the ball away from Arkansas State, which is kind of developed into having a dangerous offense somehow in the middle of the season. If you have that running game to keep the ball out of Jalen Rayner's hands, you limit the chances that Arkansas State can make some weird things happen and pull off an upset in this one.
Yeah, and that's really historically how the Cajuns have beaten Arkansas State is ball control, holding on to possession, for just a significantly longer time than Arkansas State. I just have I know I'm a homer. I get it. I feel good about Arkansas State in this game. I feel like they kind of won in a way against the Warhawks on the road in the fourth quarter that had kind of taught Arkansas State how to win games. I'm feeling good about this. Zion Chris, I think, is a great quarterback. Like, for a freshman, I think it's hard to call a freshman quarterback great when you haven't seen a bunch of his work. But the guy can run, the guy can throw. I think it's going to be a pretty good game.
Yeah, and hey, if Arkansas State wins, we're talking about, they're not bowl eligible yet, but I think they're pretty safely considered probably bowl eligible if they if they can get a win against Louisiana. I think they can start talking about the postseason, which I don't know we're thinking after week one.
Well, I more importantly, Shane, is I win my bet online wager that Arkansas State would win 4.5 games on the season. So that's what's really important, the bet online wager.
Yeah, I think they'll get there.
You think they'll get there? Okay. I feel good about you feeling good about it. A half an hour later from the kickoff of Arkansas State, Louisiana, there was another game that was going to be like the Super game. Not quite on the same level, although I feel like it's still got a lot of ramifications. And it still has the potential to being a really neat football game. Number 23, James Madison, 8-0, at 6-2 Georgia State. 2:30, ESPN2, the Dukes, a 5.5-point favorite. The Panthers were really, really feeling it, Shane, before getting ambushed by Georgia Southern and their multifaceted offense and defense. I mean, they really just sort of cut the legs from under Darren Granger. Granger had two picks, only had 157 yards. Marcus Carroll was dynamite. He had like 200 yards and a couple touchdowns. But too much Georgia Southern, right? And so now the Dukes come in. Their defense is even stronger. They got Jalen Green and Sean Alexander, Fab 14 finalist D'Angelo Ponce. By the way, the Fab 14 finalists from Sean Alexander, the only group of 5 guys, 2 guys from the Sun Belt. That's really cool. Anyway, what does Marcus Carroll provide enough threat to James Madison to do something in this game here in Atlanta? Or are they going to need Darren Granger too to figure it out?
I think they need Darren Granger too to figure it out, because the thing that I am finding intriguing about this one is ODU showed teams something about how you can attack JMU's defense, and it's spreading the field, getting out there, working sideline to sideline, and making them play sideline to sideline, then getting some cutbacks and some moves inside in the running game.
So taking away the compactness of the defensive line, which is the strength of James Madison. And yeah, very nice.
And Georgia State does some similar things. They'll, stack their wide receivers way out wide. They'll do some similar things. But then you throw Darren Granger into the mix, who's a dual threat quarterback, which ODU just does not have.
Yeah.
And that's where I think is probably the scariest aspect of this game for JMU. I mean, I think they'll make some adjustments following Old Dominion putting 27 points up on them. But the Darren Granger X factor of being able to make those throws, but also get out of the pocket and maybe get some yards when things collapse on him, I think probably gives Georgia State a chance to win this game.
Yeah, and ODU, and they played that game wire to wire. ODU, the weirdest team in the Sun Belt, by the way. But we'll talk a little bit about them later. I think the Dukes win this game. I think they remain 23rd in the AP. But whatever. Next game at the same time, kicking off at the exact same time, Shane. A game, what I call this the who's for real game. Coastal Carolina 5-3. And Old Dominion 4-4. 2:30 ESPN Plus. Not Pluff. ESPN Plus. Chanticleer's a 1-point favorite. They get sort of the I guess the nod, even though Old Dominion's at home. Listen, Coastal Carolina, I'm not going to speak for you, Shane, but I personally gave up for dead when they lost their first 2 conference games. I thought they've had it. It's only Grayson McCall. He can't do it alone. He doesn't even look as sharp as he used to. And now they go ahead and win 3 straight, including a just a beatdown of Marshall without Grayson McCall. Old Dominion, on the other hand, they're just weird ODU. They ignored the last place projections and they just continue to haunt the Sun Belt East with one of the better defenses in the conferences. They don't have a great defense. They just have a solid defense. And then they have this transfer quarterback who sometimes is good and sometimes isn't. The Monarchs played the Dukes really close. Should the Chants, to me, the Chants are always one of these teams that's kind of like has a very relaxed attitude towards these games. Are the Chants in danger of losing to ODU, who wasn't nearly as bad as we thought they were going to be?
I think they are, because ODU, it's going to be a close game because ODU plays nothing but close games.
Yes.
And I didn't do great in math.
Oh, okay.
In school, but I can recognize a pattern. That ODU wins a close game, then loses a close game, then wins a close game, then loses a close game. They lost a close game last week.
Yeah.
What do we think is going to happen this week? They're playing at home, and that sort of surprises me that it's a 1-point spread, which seems about right. But you look at the ESPN matchup predictor, they're heavy on the Chants, like I think 75%, something like that. That surprised me because I think it is going to be a real close game. And I think playing at home, a little fired up by not getting the rivalry victory last week, which I think will fire up their players, in one way that they think they should have won. Their fans are fairly optimistic because they played a top 25 team close. I think they're going to have a good crowd on Saturday to, say goodbye to Grayson McCall in the Sun Belt for the final time for them.
I didn't even realize that this is
if he plays.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know. But they won't see Grayson McCall ever coming back to Ballard Stadium, and I think they'll have a good crowd there, and I think ODU has a chance to win this one.
Oh yeah, I feel like they do too. I feel like they're kind of the favorite to win this game, in my mind. And maybe it's because Old Dominion just keeps making me look stupid week after week. But yeah, I hope Grayson McCall's back because it means that one of the brighter stars in the Sun Belt is back. But yeah, man, Old Dominion, I just don't know. They're kind of like the Sun Belt East version of South Alabama. You just don't know what you're going to get from these guys. Well, you do know what you're going to get. You just kind of refuse to accept it, right?
Yeah. Hey, one thing about ODU, Kurt Cignetti, I am sure, watched every game film of Grant Wilson that was possibly available going back to Fordham, going into that game. And he still was surprised to see him in person. He remarked multiple times this week about being surprised of how well Grant Wilson throws the ball after seeing it in person. And I think he's just getting better and better.
It's strange too, because if he had only been able to listen to the Fun Belt podcast when we had the Monarchists on, the Monarchists on, they were all big on Grant Wilson. He could have told Kurt Cignetti, they could have told Kurt Cignetti how good he was. And tragically, we didn't hit record on that. So
yeah,
it almost
that was rough.
It almost cost Cignetti a win. We only have ourselves to blame for that. All right, so at 3 p.m., a half an hour later, on the ESPN Plus, you get kind of an intriguing battle of bottom dwellers. ULM 2-6, the Hard Luck Warhawks go against Southern Miss 1-7. The Golden Eagles are a 3-point favorite. Listen, I know that Southern Miss is 1-7 and possibly the worst team in the Sun Belt. But man, they look like a different team against the Mountaineers. I was watching that first half. Frank Gore was on fire. I think he heard me say he was having a disappointing season, decided to run for 200 yards and a couple scores. So he's still one of the better running backs, maybe one of the top tier running backs in the Sun Belt. I mean, those guys were just scoring left and right on the Mountaineers team that couldn't figure out anything to do against Southern Miss. Did Southern Miss turn some kind of corner?
Vegas seems to think they did. Like going before last weekend, I wouldn't have guessed that they'd be favored in this one. I almost feel like it's them guessing which team is more likely to have kind of given up on this season going into this game, and that Southern Miss showed some life last week and some fight that maybe they're a little higher on them, because to me, ULM just still feels like a team that's had potential to win a lot of games, and they haven't. And you could say the same thing about Southern Miss to some degree, but ULM just felt like a team that was close to turning the corner several times, and it just didn't happen. And I always felt like they were going to get another win somewhere along the line, and Southern Miss looked like a good candidate for that. But then Southern Miss, like you said, they figured out how to get Frank Gore going last week. They looked like they had a chance to beat App State. Maybe they're the ones who actually ended up turning the corner and are going to find a way to win one more before the season's over.
Yeah, I think they win this game. I'll tell you what's wrong with ULM. They have a lot of guys that can kind of do their jobs, but they don't have that I don't know, that bell cow guy, that guy that you can rely on to take over the game. They don't have the quarterback or the wide receiver or the running back or even a defensive guy that can make a bunch of big stops. They just don't have that playmaker. And that's what they're really missing there in Monroe. They're just missing just the guy, They just don't have it.
Yeah, maybe freshman quarterback kind of develops into that guy, but might be a lot to ask, out of Blake Murphy this quickly, just kind of getting the job handed to him late in the season. It did seem like it was kind of time to move on from Jaya Wright, who I liked for a while, but it just seemed like, I don't know, honestly, when he steps out of bounds on the last play of the game, when, they're trying to find, they still have a chance. Was that App State? Or he steps out of bounds rather than gets hit.
And he had a good game against App State. And then he just...
But to me, when I saw that, I was kind of like, oh, that's a guy who's just done.
Yeah.
And, moving on from him, I kind of thought might be a spark. And maybe it still can be, but it's a lot to put on Blake Murphy's shoulders.
Yeah, Blake Murphy just has to somehow become like a super quarterback, and you got to give him time. So at 4:00, ESPN Plus, we get another intriguing game. It's intriguing. I'll explain why it's intriguing to me. It's Georgia Southern, 6-2, at Texas State. They go all the way to San Marcos. Hey, did you know, by the way, that Sun Belt West has yet to collect a win? No, we have one win. The Sun Belt West, I think, has one win over the Sun Belt East this year. Don't ask me who it is. I suddenly can't remember who it is. But that's pretty bad. And I don't think it's going to happen with Texas State and Georgia Southern either. And I'll tell you why. Here's what I think about Texas State. I think Texas State is a good team, but I feel like there's a little bit of 2022 Southern Miss in them, in which it just like the planets and the stars kind of have come together for them at certain times that has just made conditions fortunate for them. I don't know if this is the year for Texas State, Shane. I think this is a great year for Texas State. I think maybe next year might be the year. But I don't know if the Bobcats have enough juice to go through an entire season playing as excellent football as they've been playing. I think Troy kind of showed that. Troy kind of made Finley and Mahdi, their two super offensive juggernauts. They kind of made them look ordinary. And I don't know if Georgia Southern is going to make it look any less ordinary.
Yeah, I think one thing we're seeing about Texas State is now there's more film on this amazing GJ Kinney offense that was completely brand new to start the season when they were just putting up tons of points on everybody. And coaches are making some adjustments at this point. I still think Texas State's good. And I think playing at home with the opportunity to clinch that elusive bowl game
for Texas State, yes,
is one probably a factor in this one. You know, they've had great crowds in San Marcos. I'm sure they're going to know what's on the line there. That 6th win, and the program's never been to the postseason at this level anyway. And I think it'll be a good game. I think we'll see Texas State maybe bounce back a little bit, but Georgia Southern's also looking pretty good. They're as close to being in the driver's seat in the East to playing a championship game as a team can be right now. And, you know, so it's a big game for Georgia Southern as well. I really think this one could go either way, leaning maybe a little towards the Eagles, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards the Eagles. I will say this. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that we have more film on GJ Kinney and his Texas State Bobcats. It feels, I hate making this comparison, but it feels a little bit like you know how we've been comparing GJ Kinney with Coach Prime in Colorado. Like he's kind of the Coach Prime of the Sun Belt, bringing in a bunch of his FCS guys over, rebuilding a team, and just sort of getting these big wins. Well, now everybody seems to have caught up on Prime, right? You know, when you got Stanford coming back from behind and beating you, it's like, okay, well, all right, people kind of figured out what was going on with Deion Sanders, and they've got a game plan for him. I wonder if the same thing has happened at Texas State.
Maybe to some degree. Like I said, it was just so you didn't know anything about Texas State to begin the year. You knew what they ran at Incarnate Word, but when you have a quarterback, you didn't even know who the quarterback was going to be. But then when it turned out to be Finley, and you got a quarterback with that kind of athleticism, he's probably doing some different things than he did when he had an FCS squad.
Wow.
And I think coaches have been able to adjust a little bit to like just the unknown factor of that offense early on.
It will be interesting to see if Texas State responds to the 6-win challenge, because yes, the Bobcats have been very hard luck in that regard. So hey,
yeah, the bowl game seemed like a foregone conclusion for a while, and now it's
that's like they're like second five.
Now they kind of got to get that 6th win here somewhere.
Better do it. Can't just screw around. So Shane, remember we're talking about ULM and Southern Miss being the sort of bottom dweller game of the Sun Belt West. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Sun Belt East has the same exact game going for it against two opponents that you would have never guessed would have been the Sun Belt East bottom dwellers. Marshall, 4-4. At Appalachian State, also 4-4. 5 p.m. on the NFL Network. That always cracks me up. The Mountaineers are given a 3.5 point. We're at home. We're at Boone sort of edge. The reality is that Marshall started the season 4-4 and looked really good. There are a lot of people, why aren't these guys in the top 25? I think I might have been one of them. There's a lot of people who thought, well, Marshall could be the guys in the West, or I'm sorry, in the East that run away with it. I admit I always had a little bit of like, I don't know about this Marshall team. I feel a little bit justified now in that they just lost 4 straight and they have not looked good. Meantime, the Mountaineers, they just seem like a program in crisis. You know, man, coming back from behind to beat Southern Miss last week, I mean, that was probably great for the team's mentality. But man, to have had to do that at home, at homecoming against Southern Miss, what is going on in Boone, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, when they're talking about firing Sean Clark at halftime of that game, it's not what you expected out of Boone. I mean, when you put together this 14-team Sun Belt a year and a half ago, and you're looking at the history of the programs, would you ever thought there would be a year where, yeah, you'd be talking about the bottom dwellers being Marshall and App when they play each other? Like that, you would have never guessed that would be happening, especially not in 2023. So, I mean, things, you wonder how much that second half boosts App State. I think there's a possibility that it does, because Marshall's just, I think your skepticism in Marshall was justified. I think your hesitancy to, put a lot of stock in Cam Fancher.
Yeah.
He's limited as a quarterback when he's 100% healthy. He's not going deep on you when he's at his best. But now he's banged up. He's going out there, but he can barely walk at times. And like getting out of the pocket and running and like pulling it down and, running some draw type plays and things like that. That was his game, and he can't do that. You're turning a guy who can't throw deep into a pocket passer now. What are you going to get on offense out of that?
Yeah, you could say that about a lot of guys on Marshall, right? They're all banged up.
I mean, the teams, like I said, it seems like I'm kind of becoming a broken record. Like, they're not a team that, like, oh, you look at their depth chart, man, 9 starters are out, but 22 starters look like they've had the crap beat out of them. It's like, it's rough at Marshall right now.
Yeah, I think the Mountaineers pull this one out of the hat. It's in Boone. They're kind of over Sean Clark right now. Sean Clark's going to throw everything he can to get that 5th win, and and then be close to being bowl eligible. I think they pull it out. Shane, you know what we've just accomplished?
I think we converted on 2nd and short.
Did you hear it? Did you hear the gong?
I did.
You triggered that, my man. It wasn't me. It was you. It was all you. All right. Tibbs is not here, but that doesn't mean that plugs, promos, and parting shots leaves with them. I mean, we get to have that, but it's just you and I this time. So I'm going to put it on you right now. Bam. Give me a plug, promo, or a parting shot, Shane.
Parting shot, something of a question, I guess. Because
is it a question to me or a rhetorical question to America?
I'm not to you or anybody else who wants to chime in, but I'm not necessarily one of those guys who's, I haven't been to the vast majority of Major League Baseball stadiums.
Okay, yeah.
I've been to a few, and I've been to a few even defunct ones at this point. So I'm wondering if my visit to Center Park Stadium this Saturday, which used to be Ted Turner Field and the home of the Braves, it's located on Hank Aaron Way, I think, or Avenue or something. Like, does this count on a Major League Baseball stadium tour? Can I count like having been to a Braves game?
They're so touchy about that, Shane. I don't know.
I'm not saying it to like, to ride anybody. I'm just curious. Like,
no, of course not. You're just your journalism bone has been tickled, and you want to get down to the facts. I'm just telling you that the people there, the Georgia State guys, man, when you start even kind of questioning whether or not their football stadium is an actual football stadium, they get a little restless. I'm just going.
My question is more like, okay, so when I was a kid, I went to a Texas Rangers game when I had a cousin who lived in Dallas, and that was like two stadiums ago for the Texas Rangers.
Yes.
But if you ask me where I've been, like what Major League places have you been, I would say Texas Rangers, kind of without even thinking about the fact that it's not the same stadium. So, but that was a baseball game I went to. But I'm wondering if I can kind of count having been to the Braves now.
You know what? Turner Field? Yeah, I think you can. If you just ask me. Now, if you ask like somebody from Georgia State, they might not say that. I will tell you what's funny about that Texas Ranger thing. I remember when they built that stadium before they built this new one. I was like, it was like the 5th, like the 11th wonder of the world or whatever it was, the 8th wonder of the world. It was a great baseball stadium. It was brand new. And suddenly it's old and you got to tear it down. You got to build another one. Well, do baseball stadiums just not last long in the Arlington, Dallas area?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the one they had before the ballpark in Arlington,
yes, that's what it
it
was.
needed to go. It was like even in the early 90s when I got there, and it was not the greatest stadium in the world, but yeah, it's hard to believe that they've been through 3 now since
That's too many.
I must have been like 12 when I went there, and like, yeah.
So
I'm not that old.
stadium, the shelf life of stadiums now really bugs me. Like, I went to a Tennessee Titans football game a couple years ago. It's a great stadium, well done. And now Nashville, they're trying to get Nashville to foot the bill for a multi-billion-dollar stadium out there. Like, why? Why do you need a new stadium? This one works fine. Why are you milking the taxpayers for more? And with always like, well, we probably have to leave the city if we don't get our new. I mean, F these guys. Why is it this way, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, I get the business aspect of it to some degree, and these guys are businessmen and they want to make the money that they can. But like, I don't know, like Kansas City, I'm a Royals fan. They're talking about building a new stadium, and like,
no,
it's Kauffman Stadium is one of my favorite places in the entire world, with the fountains and the tailgating and
classic
everything else. Like, yeah, I will be sad when they move out of there.
It's like taking down Dodger Stadium. I mean, that's been around forever too. Candlestick. I was like, get rid of Candlestick. That place is just a garbage heap. But some of these stadiums, man, they're just treasures. You don't want to take them down. I got a parting shot too, and has something to do with this new reality that we live in college football. So I mentioned the Sean Alexander Watch List Award. It's for the best defensive freshman. 14 best defensive freshmen. And on that list was a guy named Javon Mackey. He plays for Arkansas State. And I remember seeing him at the spring game thinking, God, this guy looks NFL ready already. I mean, he's just got that build, right? And he leads the team in tackles and it's just done very well. And my first thought when I saw him on that list, Shane, wasn't, hey, congratulations for Javon Mackey. Congratulations for Arkansas State. Congratulations to everybody associated. It was, oh my God, we're going to lose this kid to the NIL. He's going to see, his name on here. Other people are going to see his name. He's going to take a field trip somewhere to like Ohio State or something, or Baylor, or whoever steals kids, and he's going to move on. This is the new reality that we're under, Shane. It's like we almost have to keep our star players secret, under wraps, because we're worried to death that we won't be able to keep them once they find success. Shane, have you felt this way about a player, about anybody from who you're covering, or do you see my fear, my crazy fears as rational?
No, yeah, it's rational. You have to wonder, like, and even, obviously these guys now, yeah, like you said, like, there's probably some coach who looked at that list and was like, oh, okay, put that in the back of my head, like, but yeah, you have to wonder it. Some guys stay, some guys don't, and some guys that leave are surprising to you, and others aren't. And I guess it's all just kind of wait and see right now. That's a sad aspect of it to some degree.
It is a sad aspect. It used to be you would look at a kid like that and go, wow, I'm going to get 3 more years of that kid. It's going to be great. Now you don't feel like it.
And I don't mind the players being able to get what they can get, but and I don't know how you fix this, but in the pros, there are, at least even in Major League Baseball where there's no salary cap, there's some things in line where, like, everybody kind of has the same bidding power to go after the same guys. Obviously you're never going to make it 100% equitable to where every team is equally attractive to people. But, I don't know how you would fix that in college to where, a team like Arkansas State or JMU has the ability to even like come up with a counter offer.
No, I don't either. You know, I had talked to somebody about NIL. It might have been on this show. I think it was the Western Kentucky guys we had on the show. They had a collective, and they had kept a lot of guys, and we kind of asked them about that. They said, "Listen, you can't compete with other programs on money. You know, if Michigan wants your guy and your guy wants money, he's going to leave from Michigan, right?" But they said most of these players, they kind of want to stay where they are. They found a home where they are. They found a place where they get the minutes that they want. They have coaches that believe and trust them, a fan base that loves them. They want to stay. If you can build a culture, and the NIL is part of that, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It can be a little bit of money. You can keep players. I want to believe that, Shane. I want to believe that this is a world where if you just show somebody some love and respect, they will stay. You know, I just don't know if that's realistic.
I think there's something to that. I mean, I mean, looking at JMU, like most of the people they've lost, and this is in a variety of sports in this situation, a lot of them are the ones who like played 4 years at JMU, got a degree, and then it was like, I've got a bonus year. I want to see what I want to prove that I could have been, you know, at Ole Miss or Louisville or wherever to begin with. I want to prove that I was always that good. And
I love
to
those
that degree, I kind of get it. I kind of get it. And I kind of, you know, you've already got your degree.
Yeah.
It's always going to be your school now. I understand that. When we're talking about these freshman guys on these like freshman All-American lists, this offseason is going to be like the huge one for keeping those guys too. Because I don't know how it is at Arkansas State, but there's a lot of schools where, you know, once you kind of get past that sophomore year, it gets a lot harder to transfer and like make the credits work and everything else. Like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
for a lot of schools. So we'll see what happens in that regard too. So it might be one of those things where like you got a lot better chance of keeping them for 4 years if you get past the freshman year.
Yeah, you know what, Shane? I just hope that we don't lose you to NIL.
Probably not. Nobody's offering me anything.